Hi, everybody. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List, and today we continue with our series on behalf of the Bridge Alliance, and our series we're calling Fixing America's Broken Democracy. A lot of work involved in that, and a number of people who are hard at work to attempt to do just that. So our guest today is Doug Linkhart of the National Civic League. Doug, welcome to our program.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here.
So Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you have an amazing career for, not to date you, but for decades in public policy and promoting civic leadership. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us obviously a lot about your work at the National Civic.
Sure. Thank you, David. You know, I grew up questioning authority, and I still encourage young people to do so. I think that each of us has a role to play in making our community better. And so I got involved in grassroots organizing, neighborhood work, and eventually got into politics. I was in the state House and state Senate in Colorado for 10 years, moved to being a city councilman at large for Denver, Colorado for 8 years. Ran a department for 4 years. So learned a lot about government from all different angles. Before I got into politics, I was a business consultant and a nonprofit director. So I feel like I've seen all parts of the equation. And what really drew me to the National Civic League was that interest in helping community members make a difference, whether they're residents, business people, whatever type of approach they may have to changing their community. And really, if you look around and ask yourself who has made the biggest difference in your community, chances are it's a nonprofit director or a business leader as opposed to simply a politician.
Yeah, Doug, I would echo those thoughts, and civic engagement in a positive way is a good thing. Tell us a little bit more, but if you don't mind, be a little more specific in
Sure.
terms of some of the programs your organization is very successfully executing.
Well, the National Civic League was started in 1894 by a bunch of civic leaders. 100 people came together because there was a lot of corruption and partisanship at the local level around the country, and they wanted to bring integrity to local government. And so they helped create the city manager system, nonpartisan elections, which are still taking place in most cities around the country. And so over those years, we've tried to promote democracy in a way that is based in the community, where people in the community can make a difference. And then we work with local government in particular to do civic engagement and reach out to the community to involve everybody in particular issues. The way we do our work is through example. We find examples of success around the country, and we recognize them in our All-America City Awards, our national journal that goes to 125,000 people. On our website, we have a database of promising practices. It's really a fun job because we find what works, and then we help others emulate that success.
So, Doug, did I understand you to say, because I'm not personally familiar with this, that in many municipalities around the country, you're having nonpartisan elections for the leadership of those cities?
Yes, I believe in most cities, actually, city leaders are chosen on a nonpartisan basis. Some of the bigger cities have partisan elections where you run as a Democrat or a Republican. But in an awful lot of cities, they run as themselves rather than a Democrat or Republican. But in either case, there's often a city manager who helps bring professional management to the city so that it's not just run by the politicians.
Yeah, that seems to me that's not the case in my hometown of Baltimore. There are partisan
Right.
elections, though basically one party wins all the elections.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it does seem to me to be a great idea that you're promoting, in that running a city has very little to do with traditional partisan political issues.
Yeah, well, and we have a model city charter that promotes professionalism in government. And I believe Baltimore just moved to create a chief administrative officer, for example, that helps run the government so that the mayor's not involved in everyday decisions. And I think overall, the country has become much less corrupt at the local level. There's a lot more trust at the local level. That trust has continued over time, while trust in federal government has gone down.
Yeah, no question about that. I know I see over your shoulder a program that I'm at least partially familiar with, the All America City program. And I think you have your program results get announced in June. So tell us a little bit about that and the selection process and what that's all about.
Okay. Yeah, every June we recognize 10 American communities that we think are good examples of engaging everyone in the city to address particular problems. So this year we're focusing on equity and resilience, cities that are doing good work around creating equity in their community. In Rochester, New York, for example, we're recognizing, or last year we recognized Rochester as an All-America city. And one of their projects was a climate task force that addresses school climate. They had a lot of suspensions, especially of kids of color, and they changed the city code or the school district's code of conduct to reduce suspensions. And so we invite cities to apply. We have 20 finalists, and then in June, those 20 finalists come to a kind of a contest, a ceremony, where they present their case to a jury, and then we recognize 10 All-America cities. And there are cities all over the country, big and small, that have been recognized over the years.
I think Baltimore is a former winner of All-American City Award as well, right?
It's been a while. I think it was a while
Unfortunately,
back.
it has, but
yeah.
good things will be happening again soon, hopefully.
Good. Yeah.
I know that your work is, particularly nowadays, you've gotten into racial equity issues, education, policing, and so on. Tell us a little bit about how that's occurring.
These are issues that have been of interest to us for a long time. The core of our work is to engage everyone in the community around problem solving. So we encourage cities to work with nonprofits, with faith-based organizations, with local chambers of commerce, business organizations like downtown partnerships, and others to address particular issues. And policing is one of those issues. Racial equity, education, health. These are just some examples of topics that communities might take on. And certainly the work over the years in community policing sort of represents some of what we promote, which is that police officers should work with the full community to solve problems and prevent problems. Racial equity is something that we're working on through the International City Managers Association. We have an institute of city managers that are working on racial equity. We also have a resource page on our website for racial equity resources. And there are a lot of organizations doing this work. Our emphasis is that everyone should be included in that conversation. Everyone in the community should be recognized as part of the solution, whether they are citizens or non-citizens, whether they're business people that may not live in the particular community. Everyone should be engaged in that conversation.
And Doug, I know you're one who believes, certainly based on your previous history and your work with the National Civic League, that it's just as important, or perhaps I should even say more important, to become involved in the community locally as opposed to nationally. How does the saying goes? All politics is local.
Politics is local.
I guess change starts at a local level more often than not as well.
there's a lot of distrust in the federal system these days, a lot of partisanship in Congress and between Congress and the president. It's been very difficult to solve some of our biggest challenges at the national level. Certainly, we need democracy to work well at the national level. But in the meantime, there are tremendous things happening locally throughout the country. There are a lot of cities that are working on climate change and making a difference, on racial equity, on policing, on law enforcement, on education and health. We've seen tremendous progress in the past year on COVID-19 through work at the local level. So that's what we encourage basically, is for people to get involved with local organizations, with their local government, and to make a difference.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're not only promoting involvement at a local level, but you're also promoting youth involvement. Get started, start working on change when you're young, right?
Absolutely. Civic education is tremendously important. Kids are not learning enough about how the world works, how government works in schools, and we've been promoting more activities to improve civic education and knowledge about the world, and working with governments to engage young people. They have a lot of great ideas. A lot of changes have started with teenagers. When you think about the 60s or some of the marches more recently, young people have some great ideas and energy.
Yeah. Doug, how does someone get involved with the National Civic League, and how do they contact you or your colleagues there?
Well, we have a website, thenationalcivicleague.org, and we certainly welcome people to be members of the organization and to use the resources on our website, and to participate in our monthly webinars, and we have a journal. But just as important, we encourage folks to get involved at the local level and make a difference where they can.
Well, thank you very much, Doug, for your wonderful work on behalf of the National Civic League. We need change. We need it all over the place. And the Bridge Alliance, which of course your organization is a member of, is promoting this series, Fixing America's Broken Democracy. Your work is definitely a part of that. Thank you very much, Doug Linkhart of the National Civic League, for joining us today.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
And this has been David Nevins for Citybiz List and for the Bridge Alliance. Thank you for joining us.